Alright, big news just happened yesterday. Well, I guess it's not really that big news, but I mean, things are pretty much the same. But I mean, it is kind of big news. But I want to talk about this article right here. Focus up? No. You're not going to focus. It's not going to focus. Basically, I want to talk about an article that came out yesterday in the Globe and Mail, basically about how the CMHC is easing its mortgage qualifying rules for insurance for people who have less than 20% down payment. And mainly my biggest takeaway from this article, and it's in the title, is that it's just basically saying that CMHC is admitting that it was a mistake to do what they did last year. So a little bit of a background. Last year, the CMHC, they predicted that the housing market was going to be dropping a little bit due to COVID and the impact it was having on the economy. So they decided to tighten up the rules a little bit for offering insurance to people who are deemed a little bit more risky by having less than 20% down payment. They were forecasting anywhere from a 9 to 18% decrease in housing prices, and if you paid attention from July 1st last year to now, I mean, they were completely wrong. The market boomed, and we're in a completely different place right now. As I mentioned a little bit, CMHC is really, they're one of three companies. They're more government based and they give mortgages to people who have less than 20% down. They're one of three. The other two are private companies, but basically they insure mortgages that are deemed a little bit more riskier. So last year they decided to make it a little bit more tougher, making a few changes for people who have less than 20% down. Mainly what they did, they made it that you had to have a 680 credit score opposed to a 600 credit score. And they also limited the GDS and TDS, making it 35% for GDS and 42% for TDS. Those used to be 39% and 44%. The CEO of CMHC said that it should help with the excessive demand and unsustainable house price growth in Canada. And obviously the prices are pretty ridiculous here, but he just predicted that this should be able to help slow it down. With COVID taking off in March, there was a few down months in the housing market, but prices were still pretty much the same, but activity had dropped drastically. And I mean, this was major news last year because people who thought that they could only afford a certain amount, that number had dropped drastically, like 10% at least. So people were rushing to go and get mortgages, but then something unexpected happened. The two private insurance companies decided not to follow suit with CMHC, and they decided to continue at the same rules that they were operating with from beforehand. So in all honesty, it really didn't have too much of an impact on the market because people who would be using CMHC just ended up using the other two companies and were still getting the same rates and same mortgages that they would have applied for before July 1st of 2020. And I mean, this had a huge impact on CMHC because they ended up losing almost half of their market share. So after a full year, yesterday, July 6th, 2021, CMHC came out. They decided that they're going to be going back to their old rules and applying those to what they were doing last year. So they went back to requiring only 600 credit score, and they raised the GDS to 39% and also the TDS up to 44%. And to be honest, this was specifically aimed at people who were carrying more debt, i.e. student loans or anything like that. People who were carrying more debt but were still making their payments on time, because a person who is carrying more debt but can still maintain and pay their mortgage should still be able to apply for the amount that they were able to beforehand. But as I said, this didn't really have any impact on the market because those two private companies were still insuring those mortgages regardless of what CMHC was doing. So, I mean, what does this mean for you? Basically, it just solidifies the three mortgage insurers to having the same standard. You're still going to be able to borrow the same amount that you were beforehand. It's just, you know, you have three options instead of two options because CMHC is back to what they were doing. And luckily, those two other companies did not follow what CMHC was doing, because if they did, it would have impacted the whole market pretty hard. As an example, before CMHC had made their changes, a person would be looking at applying for something with 39% GDS. So a household income with about $100,000 combined and a 10% down payment, they would have been able to qualify for a home around $525,000. Now, after CMHC had made those changes and dropped the GDS down to 35%, that qualifying number would have been drastically lower. It would have been around $462,000, and that's about a 12% decrease in amount of money that you can borrow. So I mean, it's great. A lot of people have a tough time doing it, but it's great that CMHC admitted that they were wrong and they made their switch. But all in all, you have to be careful when purchasing a home, all because you can afford a certain amount. Don't max that number out. Don't go and stretch yourself too thin. Pay attention to what you can actually afford and borrow mindfully. Canadians right now are carrying a lot of debt, and that's why you always hear about the housing market crashing. But all in all, pay attention to what you're borrowing. If you have to get a smaller home, or if you have to move a little bit further away, do so just to make sure that you're not overstretching yourself and making sure that you're not house poor. And obviously, if you have 20% down or more than that, this video has nothing to do with you. Continue doing what you're doing, but regardless, I'm glad all of this stuff has solidified and all three of the companies are following the same rules now. CMHC may be able to bounce back and capture that market share again, but regardless, this video was just to talk about that because it was decent news yesterday, and if you didn't know what was going on, this was a little review for you. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you can, and always punch the subscribe button. We'll talk to you guys next time. Again, it's Travis Eman, the Modern Realtor, here with Salerno Realty. See you guys next time.